documentation is probably a big issue that we're seeing in Illinois. There's another case, the Lowe's case, which recently came out as well. And that really talks about documentation that you could have, that you have some kind of a burden to update. And you also have a burden to review documentation that the Department of Revenue is providing you as well. In the Lowe's case, that dealt with construction contractors, which we don't need to get into in too much detail, but the overall premise was that there was a bulletin issued by the Department of Revenue explaining what is and is not a construction contractor in pretty specific terms. There was perhaps a little wiggle room, but they had noticed that the issue was a gray area, and they were trying to provide explanation and some examples and what have you. In the Lowe's case, really what happened was Lowe's didn't necessarily follow that, and they didn't also have they had relied on a third party review before this bulletin came out. So the judge didn't particularly like that they didn't then have a outside third party review that document to opine if they would have changed their opinion. So I think the Lowe's case has a lot of levels to it. One of them is like, be careful with all of us living in same as last year, right? And relying on what happened last year because circumstances change, rulings change. You really have to keep up on documentation. And then secondly, even like Dave alluded to in the Pepsi case, keeping contemporaneous third-party documentation about your positions is really important because it's not necessarily what your opinion was. Maybe there's a little bit of a burden now to go out and get someone to opine on what your position is.